Welcome to the Coach's Table Podcast, where coaches come to grow personally and professionally through real-world application and online education. What's going on, everybody? Oh, man, I tell you what, basketball season is right around the corner. Preseason is here. We are alive and well, and it's kind of like the best time of the year because football is now in the midst of it, and I feel like they've got the rush shaking off a couple of weeks in, and games are getting really, really, really good. But then basketball season's starting too, and so you're going to have college basketball on, college football on, NFL, and honestly, you can't really get much better than that for the time of the year. So, guys, today's guest, I'm super excited to have him on. We've had a fantastic conversation just off air, just like we have with all the guests, and honestly, I always think I should record those, but we need that time to ourselves. So before we get started, guys, here's the deal. If you enjoy this episode, if you enjoy any of the episodes, do us a huge favor, share the show, okay? It's the only way the show grows. I appreciate you guys that do that, and as I see them, thank you very much. But do us a huge favor, share the show. If you get entertained, if you get educated, if you think, hey man, you know what, I resonate with what you guys are talking about, or I didn't think of that, that's a great point. Do us a huge favor, share the show. If you're listening on Spotify, it takes 10 seconds to do that, and then to leave a review, and then we do put the full length YouTube episodes out as well. So do us a huge favor, go to YouTube, drop a comment, and subscribe. That would be awesome. So without further ado, a father, a Christian, an author, a researcher, a strength coach, an assistant head coach, Mr. Matt Aldred. What's up, man?
Oh, look at that. I've never had an intro like that. I appreciate it. Yeah. Baby girl due on the way March 15th.
Man.
So it might be an interesting March. We'll see how the team do, and just praying for a healthy baby then. But appreciate it. Thank you.
Man, first one.
Are
you nervous?
It's a little bit surreal right now. My wife isn't necessarily showing, and so I think when the bump starts to appear, it's very exciting. But there's like so much that happens obviously before baby arrives. Like literally our basketball season, which we work very hard to excel at and do the best we can. So there's just so much before it. But yeah, we're very, very thankful, very blessed, thankful, and yeah, we're feeling a lot of blessings right now. So it's good.
Man, that's exciting. It's always interesting. I don't have any kids of my own yet, so hopefully here in the next couple of years that would be awesome. But it's always exciting to see people kind of, have that next step of life happen, and go from, obviously you're still going to do your job and do it at a super high level, but it's like now you have a little one to take care of and you have a wife to support and everything from that standpoint. I think it's really cool. I think it also adds like another element of purpose for us, right? Especially you said it, a baby girl, which is, the adage of, the first girl in the family, that's always exciting. Should be a lot of fun for you guys. I'm excited for you. Should be interesting to see, you guys make another run here in March and you have a couple of things happen in March where you have a successful basketball season and you become a father, man.
Yeah, hopefully the boys do well, and I have to miss a couple of games, but I said to you off air, like I've never played for Furman, so they should be just fine. If I did, it'd suck. And I will be fully present where my wife needs me to be, and dude, just very thankful. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to that point real fast is, a lot of times I think people can get caught up in like the work, right? And it's like, yeah, but there's also a lot more important things, and being with family is super important. And, taking care of your wife and your kids is super important. And I think so many times we just like get so caught up in like, well, I need to be there. Like if I'm not there, it's like, well,
yeah,
I think okay.
It's sorry to cut you off. I do think it's going to be unique. It's going to be a challenge. I know that I've had a couple of friends reach out and say, hey man, let's just start to get real now, and whatever it may be, if I can handle it, being a great dad, as present as I can, and still do this job, great. If I can't, if an area slips and my wife and I talk about it, we're not happy, like I'll do everything I can. Like that's always been my dream job, is to be a great husband and a great father, and I do believe that. It's hard sometimes because there's a glitz and glamour with college sport, and we love getting free gear, and we love being courtside at the games and front row, and my office is essentially a weight room, so it's like it's pretty good. It's pretty good life. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the challenges. I know it's going to be a stress, but it's a new level, right? And so I'm gonna
Mhm.
try and do as best I can. I do love the grind of work. I do. I think as men, it's an outpouring, and as women, I think to have
Yep.
an occupation that you're passionate about, I think is really cool, and the fact we get paid for it is great.
Yeah.
Um, but knowing one's value as well, I think is important. The nuances of, okay, now there is a child at home, and my
Mhm.
wife might not want to work. So it's like, okay, I have to be providing now, and so
Yeah.
the resources does come into it, and I
Mhm.
think it will for every coach when they have children in this industry. So yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
good challenges ahead, a lot of joy, a lot of sleepless nights, I'm sure, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the grind of it. You just gotta love it, and it's only for a little bit too. Who was that? I was talking to my brother. Just had his kid turn 2, and we were kind of talking like it was myself, my dad, my brother, and like the terrible twos and all that stuff, right? And my dad like really put it in perspective, and he's like, "They'll never be this age again." And I was like,
Yeah,
That's it's funny because you can get wrapped up in like that. Oh, they're crying, they're this and they're that, and he's like, "Yeah, but you'll never get this age back."
yeah,
Man, that's true. Like it's
yeah.
it's it's easy for him to say it. It's
Yeah,
easy for him
yeah.
to say it, but it's a good reminder.
This episode is sponsored by TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder is the #1 performance platform for strength coaches around the world. Their software provides coaches with an elevated experience when it comes to program development, data tracking, and staying connected with athletes and clients. Coaches also have access to consultations with TeamBuilder's in-house sports scientists to help manage and analyze data. Head to teambuilder.com and sign up with promo code TABLE to start your free 30-day trial. That is TeamBuilder, TeamBuildr.com, and sign up with promo code TABLE to start your free 30-day trial. Coaches, this podcast is sponsored by Samsung Equipment. They have been providing elite strength training equipment and professional weight room solutions since 1976. If you value product quality, great customer service, and a company with integrity, make Samsung Equipment your go-to. Visit them at samsungequipment.com and let them know the Coaches Table podcast gave you a seat at their table. That is Samsung Equipment, SAMSON Equipment.com, and let them know the Coaches Table podcast gave you a seat at their table.
Yeah, and I would just the thought that came into my head there is like, you obviously don't want to miss moments with your
Right.
children, but I've been fortunate. I've had three really good assistants that have worked for me at
Yeah.
Furman, and
Yeah.
like we are fortunate to have another assistant. So hey, like everyone will be okay. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the guys will be just fine. If I
Yeah.
have to miss it, if I have a really sleepless night or whatever, and I have some grace at work with coming in a bit later, like we can figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think having a great support team around you is crucial for sure.
Absolutely. I was just thinking of that. I was really sick last week. I had strep, I had the flu, and a fever of one or two all at the same time.
Mm.
Right? I was getting crushed. I was getting crushed, and I was thankful because we had like 6 interns, and they were able to cover down on all of our stuff, which was great. But I was sitting there and I was like, this is why we need more strength coaches. Not because just to give people days off, but to help each other out during the times of somebody being sick, somebody having a kid, somebody because it's always like typically a one coach to team, right? And as a strength coach, for whatever reason, we always have like this guilt of like, if I'm not there, right, like nothing's gonna go right. And it's like, well, not really, or that's not true. um but it's like, well, what about sickness, what about all this other stuff? And it's so interesting because at times it's like, they say like, oh, well, you pick long hours and you pick this, and it's like, yeah, well, but they're sick, so we should have more coaches to help them, and it makes everybody's life easier. That became very real for myself and our staff here this past week because two of us were sick, not just me, but two of us were sick. So it was
Yeah.
really interesting.
And I think advocating for help for you, like
Yeah.
we work in primary sports, right? I know you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
sports earlier, but say basketball and football in the United States in the college system, there's a good
Yeah.
amount of money there. There's a lot of TV money. It's like if we are really valued in what we do, and we can have an intern that really has an interest in us and wants to stay on, okay, can we get them some compensation? Can that
Yeah.
compensation increase each year? Then you've got a full-time assistant helping you out. And then your job, hey, you do the shakes, I'll do the technology, you be with these guys. I'll like, if a head coach and a staff see that, the value is immense for both parties, because now the players have two coaches, a point of contact for strength and conditioning, and you have help. And then again, like if I'm not feeling well one day, I got peace. I got peace that they'll be looked after, and it's not a complete stress. And obviously, like, high tides lift all boats. Like, if you have two people in there that really believe in the culture and believe in the system and believe in the guys, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And just different perspective, more eyes, more different thought processes too, because like we talked about earlier too, is like, kind of touched on conditioning a little bit, but like there's elements of our programming that, we're better at, or that we think we should improve on. And, if you find somebody that complements your weakness, hey, help me understand this more, help me ensure we do this more, and vice versa. And you can, obviously grow together and help each other. But it's like now you're becoming a more complete program because people are complementing each other rather than, the typical, like, everybody loves strength. Yeah, well, strength is easy, like strength is easy. And so if I'm not the best at mobility, or the best at nutrition, or the best at, conditioning, or I don't know sports science, or, whatever other elements, because as we continue in this field, the requirements of our position are continuing to increase in regards of skill set, in regards of knowledge, in regards of application, in regards of constantly producing things, not just training programs, but also like showing them getting better, also reports, also all this other things. And there's so many other skill sets that coaches don't have, may not want to improve on. And if you can bring somebody in that complements you and helps you from that standpoint, maybe they take that over completely, and that's fantastic. And then you learn from them. But I think a lot of people struggle with that as well.
Yeah, we've had, I definitely have a soft spot for in hiring an assistant that has an interest in technology. I think that's key.
Yeah.
Because, if I'm deep diving on something, force plates, well, I want them to deep dive on something connects on. Like, run down the rabbit hole, read the articles, like, tell me practically how we can improve. Hey, listen to this podcast. Hey, reach out to this coach. If there's two of us doing that, then our performance model improves dramatically. And also it helps them. If we've been young in our careers, and we've been hungry for advice and a mentor, and we've been hungry to reach out to people and keep learning. Well, if I can, have some of my peers and friends communicate and have my assistant contact them, like, that's amazing. Because when they have a full-time role, they then have that person as a network, a friend, and then they are going to want to pour into someone like they've hopefully poured into here. I definitely take a lot of pride in how we develop those assistants, and the impact the program's made on them. We know we're pretty unique at Furman. We get a retention rate. We don't have a lot of guys transfer out. We can have telling our athlete LTAD, so long-term athletic development. I said, this is your first year. We should capitalize on that first year with your training age and with the resources we have. But, someone's been here 4 years and they put on X amount of pounds of muscle in the summer. Like, we got to keep improving. I want my older guys to see that improvement each year, and like, wow, we're trying out something different. And having an assistant that really can provide value there. And all I want is practical information. Like, hey, what are we seeing? Like, it could be any presentation. It could be a presentation on American football using Connexon. Okay, what can we take from that? Or podcast. I listened to a podcast, Tim Ferriss and Eric Cressy. Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant podcast. And it's like, there's some stuff about lower backs. I'm like, all right, this is over my head. But they just had 10 minutes talking about fascia this morning. That's amazing. Like, I love that. And how can that improve my delivery and my provision of services to my guys? There's information absolutely everywhere. And if you've got like-minded, and, I think if you've got an assistant that's interested in technology, it generally will mean they have probably more of a holistic view of performance. I can get anyone that's big, strong, and my guys don't need that. My guys, my head coach rely on us to provide insight and scientific methods and trial and error and curiosity to improve and move the needle. And so I really look for that in hiring someone, for sure.
I think curiosity is such a central component, because like obviously, like, learning from other people, I think is fantastic, but having the curiosity, if we do this, what potentially may occur? And is that what we want? Or is that beneficial for performance? maybe not, right? And there's a lot of arguments of like, well, that doesn't directly impact wins or losses, or it doesn't directly impact performance. It's like, well, okay, fair. That's always obviously something that a lot of people will say, but we tried, and if it worked, great. And if it didn't, awesome, we learned something, right? And I think from that aspect, it's what do like having just having the curiosity, because like as soon as you're like, what, I know everything, what, like I'm not very good, or this is what we're gonna do, and we repeat the same stuff over and over and over again. It's like, well, we've never grown. Our athletes haven't gotten better. And sure, like, there's the physiological adaptations that occur, and if you are, within X amount of volume, you should hopefully see X result, and all that stuff, right? Okay, cool, great. But like we talked about, the strength is easy. Like what are we practically doing? How can we practically make things better, save more time, get more efficient, and how can we do that? What are other people doing that we can either learn from and implement, or like, what are we missing? What is our missing piece, missing link? I think something for me that you're working on or have worked on for the last 18 months or so is the fascial training. I'm not very educated in that, and it's really interesting to see that become more of a mainstream thing. And it's interesting because I'm like, I don't understand it. Like I understand what fascia is, but I don't understand it, if that makes sense at all. And so it's like, kind of tell us a little bit about that. What have you been working on for? I mean, you've done a lot in the last couple of years. For those of you that haven't seen your stuff, I mean, you've written several blogs. You've produced research articles, which is really fascinating, that I've read and have now applied for our guys. But everything else that you're working on, it's there's constant improvement, clearly.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. That's definitely the design.
Yeah.
I've got a quote above my desk. Every strength coach has one, I'm sure, but this is just like a Mike Boyle quote. If you're doing the same things you did 10 years ago, it's either a really good program or like, probably something needs to change, and I would say that a lot of strength coaches, if you've done a summer block of training, like, and you've been at school 2-3 years, like it's going to look a little bit different. And so I do think we're all inherently curious. I just know I have to be, I never played this sport. And I would say that's a strength. Basketball strength coaches that play basketball would say that's a strength. Absolutely. Be authentic, be you. I'm an English guy that really doesn't, even if we go do a shoot around, I don't really shoot the ball anymore. I just kind of sit on the side and watch the guys, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm my own skin.
See, I shoot with them. I challenge all of them. Every day I try to challenge a guy to a 3-point contest, whether I win or not. I'm always talking trash to him the entire time, though.
See, there's a difference, right? But that's you. That's authentic. As long as the guys know that, and you're getting that every day. So I'd say that Mike Boyle quote comes to mind, and then social media has been amazing for like learning. And I try and tell my head coach all the time. He's kind of like back and forth with like, let's say, me sharing stuff online, and I've really tried to be respectful for the program. I don't want to give away too many competitive advantages. Not that anything is truly original, right? Let's just put that out there.
Yeah.
I've seen this. Let me try this. And I think. But social media got some brilliant coaches out there putting out content daily that's like, man, this is awesome. Like, this is so good. And so I think that's been a big help to our profession. It can lead to some imposter syndrome. I know I've had that when I haven't been at work for a while because of a visa issue. I'm stuck in England. I'm seeing how everyone trains their team. I'm like, I just want to be training them again, And then you're like, they're doing this. Like, man, we're not doing that. And I think just authenticity, and then, like I say, I want to, we spoke about it a bit earlier, but I do want to be, when I'm at work, I work. It's just a statement I have, and it's very simple. I try not to really, it sounds super nerdy, but like if I'm at my laptop more than any other strength coach, like I'm good with that. Because I'm not going on like, I don't know what, newspaper website. Like I'm looking at our data, I'm reading, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm writing down notes, I'm looking back at historical data. Like I love that. That to me gets us ahead, and that gets me going. So it's like, I want to look at like, well, how many hours of deep work have I had? We can be distracted, and the books I read, I love Deep Work by Cal Newport. I love Good to Great. We've just read it. I love Stolen Focus. All those books are like, I think attention and focus is a superpower. So it's like, and you'll notice it when you start reading something. You're like, man, why is my mind distracted? Because we're so used to just scrolling. Whereas if you read, you're like, okay, it takes about half a page to settle in. But I'm like, okay, if I'm doing that every day, if I'm scrolling every day, I'm probably not learning as much as I could. And I know my career lifespan is small, so I want to maximize it. So the research articles, the blog articles. It's passionate, right? I'm passionate about what I do. I want to share it. I want to be great. And I got no. I work for a head coach that wants to be the best ever, and I'm super blessed to be here at Furman with him, and have been with him for 5 years. And guess what? Like, you're the product of the people you hang around the most, right? And so if he's a direct boss, I'm probably going to try and implement some things to impress him, add value to the program, get the best provision I can to the team. And then I guess with all that being said, fascia-based training has been a real area of interest for me over the last few years. I've done a couple of courses on it with a fat tool and then a stretching course. I've read Fascia Training by Parisi. I know Chris Hayes was on your podcast. He did a beautiful explanation. So if you need an explanation, hit that guy. That was a great 1-minute segment. I'm not going to beat that.
He's awesome. I love Chris.
Happy for him with his new role.
Yes.
But the fascial system is, Danny Foley is a friend now. And I took the Fascia Chronicles course last season. And I got no issue saying that in season is a great time for me to learn. I think if you're really as a strength coach, like, summer is not a good time for me to learn. In season, yes, I should be doing a continued education course once a year. I chose the Fascia Chronicles, and Danny was just dialed in. And it got to the situation where I called him in the summer. We'd had some back and forth. I called him with an idea, and he was all about it. It was perfect timing for him and me. So we've actually been working on a course, which is going to be like almost a follow-up to Fascia Chronicles, but more basketball focused, which will be in December, which is awesome. How can we quantify who is a fascial-based athlete, muscle-based athlete? How can we train for that? And there's been some great stuff out there recently. Henry Barrera did a great continuum on it. Hunter Eisenhower's got some phenomenal stuff. Like, super smart dude. Like, it's getting more common. And like what you said, like, that feeling of I'm not quite sure what it's about. Like, I'm there as well. I'm just making it a fact of, okay, if I'm doing a course on it, I better know stuff about it, right? And so Danny's been brilliant. If you don't follow Danny, follow Danny, and hopefully the course will really provide, some good impact. And that's the next big project, I would say, from me in this situation. Man, you got to always be curious. And I would say that my last point with that is, you've got walk-ons, right? We've got low-minute players. We've got plenty of time. College strength coach, got plenty of time with them. I probably see my low-minute guys, my walk-on 6 days a week in season. Hey, you've got plenty of time to try out some stuff. We did some Javoric barbell complexes, I think is what it is, like 3 years ago. Okay, cool. Let's try that out. We've done some different stuff on the force plates. Great. We did some isometric mid-thigh pull on game days with the low-minute guys and with the red shirts. Let's see if we can get a better DSI score. Let's see how we can, because if it's a smaller group, you can probably put the pins in at the right time and out before the lift. Some low-minute guys do it. Okay, we don't do too many reps. And then is it potentiation effect? Does that help with how they play? Depends on their mood that day. If they just want to hit a quick arm farm and go, if they want to have a little bit more of a lift, let's do DSI. Let's see it. Let's see how that can improve. And trial and error there. And being able to give the athlete feedback on that is awesome. As an English guy having played soccer, like, I've always got to be curious. I'm lucky that is one of my personality types, and this job allows you to be curious. If you are okay with that, though, if you're okay with trying out stuff and being humbled, I think I had a quote from a buddy that was just stepped down from a high level job. I can't remember it. But it's, it's about philosophies. It's like, have a philosophy, but if something better comes along, like, be okay to drop that philosophy. Like, be completely open-minded. Like, if you show me something better and you can prove it, and even if it's just I had a few athletes do this and it really helped, that's going to make my mind go, let me try it.
Right.
And not be stubborn. I think sometimes as strength coaches, we can be stubborn. And
I think so too.
I can be stubborn too, without
well, I think the point of what you said, especially in season, like, there's a ton of time in season. Like, when you're really in season, you spend a lot of time on the road or in a hotel, like, and maybe you don't play till 7:30 p.m. Like, you have a lot of time during that day to read, watch videos, podcasts, do data, whatever the case may be, right? Get a lift in, get the guys a lift in, potentiate, all that stuff, right? So there's a lot of stuff that, like, you can do it. It's to the point of, like, having the focus to do it and the discipline to do it, right? And having the intent of, I'm going to learn something, or what can I take from this? I think that's really important too. There's a lot of times that, I think we've all been there, but hey, I'm going to do the CEU to, do the CEU so I have them and can maintain my certification and do all that stuff, right? But it's like you didn't like, you have to have a love for learning. You have to have a desire for learning. And then in your own context, right? Because the environment obviously changes a lot of things, but like, what can you then apply where you're at? What can you take from and apply where you're at? And I think that's really important from the aspect of how do you get better? How do you make it better for your athletes? How do you improve whatever the case may be, right? And I think, kind of transitioning, but like what we talked about a little bit ago in regards of like the data aspect of things and all the skill sets that are required to go from asking a particular question, right? Or questions to full out reports that have recommendations on them, right? Or hey, here's my thoughts on this. I think we should do X, Y, and Z. There's a ton of skill sets and curiosity amongst that at all. And now what was once unquantifiable is now quantifiable with data, with force stacks and all this information. So it's not that the information's not there. It is there. You just have to learn how to read it, understand it, apply it, and then, hey, what can I do to address this? Or what quality do I need to potentially bring up, change, put into a program, take out of a program to help them, be better at whatever indicator you're looking at.
Yeah, I think with curiosity, there just came a point where you wanted to ask some sports science questions, and
Yeah.
you hear it, you hear it in staff meetings. Well, how do we know how hard this player's working? And it's like, okay, well, I could probably help that. Let's look into getting an internal load. Okay, let's look at heart rate. Great. Okay, well then there's context with that, right? So you have
Yeah.
like when I need the head coach to look at the iPad during a 4-minute game, yeah, he can look at it then for sure. Because then we should be in the red. We should be above 9%. If
Sure.
we're doing it in a drill that's very stop-start, I should probably have the iPad because I have the context of the really fit guys and in great shape. Probably I'm going to get in the red for a drill that's stop-start, but like there's context with it. And so, yeah, the curiosity, the data piece, sports science questions has just always been something I was very interested in. Background as a soccer player, I felt like, periodizing training was a big thing when I was kind of playing, and what I saw from, some strength coaches that I went to university with that work in the Premier League. It's like, it's a big part of what they do is how can you optimize and peak for performance for a game? And that is where we try and use technology to be a competitive advantage. And we've got 3 years of historical data for that. My head coach is super dialed into the numbers. And so it's a question of, am I willing to spend that time in the day to connect with people at Connexon, to connect with other coaches about it, to learn about it, to look at periodization, to look at day before loads, to kind of talk with my head coach about it? Yeah, absolutely. Because, in spinning all these plates as strength coaches, it's like, yes, I am a strength coach. Yes, I want my guys to look insanely strong, ripped up. Like, I want all that. I need them to be in really great shape. But then there's like recovery, preparation, nutrition, sleep, relationships, sports science, technology. And so on an off day, which we both have today, it's like, yeah, I expect to see 95% of my team. But this is really a day of like, how much can I read? How much can I learn? How much can I prepare for tomorrow? And like big picture projects. It's like the season's coming up. How do I need to prepare for October for that? And then what do we look at non-conference games? So let's look at some loads from last year. Like that stuff gets me going. Because what we want to do when we're watching the team play is, as guys that are in the shadows and very much like, hey, I'll do the warm up. Like, I don't need to be on the court. I'm good. Like, don't need the spotlight on us. That's not what our job's about. But if I'm on the sideline, I want to know that I did everything I could to prepare them as best I could. And that's not just in the weight room, but that's conversations about practice. And my head coach, I'm lucky, he's very receptive to that. And we have good data and we have a good relationship. We've been together a while. So I know what he wants from that. But dude, that to me is as big a job as any in us. The body composition change, all that stuff is in the summer. Preseason period is about conditioning, and then I think it really transitions, in my opinion, to like speed and KPIs. Like October for me is like KPI month because bodies should look how they want to look at this point.
You're not really changing too much.
Yeah, and if you are like, okay, there might be some injuries that happen in the summer that you got to address, no problem. But in my mind, as I work to program, it's like, a lot of people are doing the French contrast method. This current point, I am as well, and it's like, how can I make it better than last year? How can I make it more unilateral? Because I truly believe unilateral training is probably better than bilateral squats.
Yep, I agree.
I just, it's in every which way. And our force plate data shows me that. How can I do as much of that as I can? How can I add this in? We've started doing tsunami bar stuff this French restaurant. We've had them in the closet for forever. And I'm just, my stubborn, I said I can be stubborn. I was like, I'm not using that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I should use that. I read Bo's book. He has them in there. I have them in the closet. I'm an idiot. Use them. Like sometimes it's just like, it's glaringly obvious. And I think the guys are, the longer they're in the program, the more they need a different stimulus and they need variety. And so even adding that bar in is like, oh, this is new. Yeah, I want it to be new. I've been with some of these guys for 5 years. Like I want them to go in there and keep feeling like they're challenged and truly, like, I want them to know that I'm trying to be the best I can be for them. So if we just do hey, we're doing the same as last year, we'll look at, no, like, I'm trying to be better than last year. Like, that's not what, we don't just stay still in life. You either get better or you, like, that's very coach talk, isn't it? But like, are you reading every day? Are you speaking to people way smarter than you? That's my aim, is to like try and get on a call with someone way smarter than me. Yeah. Like, how can I learn? Because that gives me energy. It gives, okay, yeah, you're doing this, amazing. You speak to, and the best thing about basketball strength coaches is they're so approachable.
So approachable
in this industry. I can't say the same thing for football. I'm not in it, but I don't think I could probably get on a call with the guy at Ohio State tomorrow or next week. I'd probably get palmed off to his assistant or an intern. But if I want to speak to, you name it, in COVID, I spoke to, 20, 25 of the best strength coaches. Everyone's just so willing with their time, and I love it. And so you can't not be curious,
Huge shout out to the basketball strength coach community, because I could not agree with you more. One of the things that I love about the basketball strength coach community is how collaborative everybody is and how everybody wants everybody to be better and to win. And I feel like there's such a great energy vibe of like, there's enough out there for everybody. And there's no secrets, because I agree with you. Like, there's nothing that's original, right? Like, there's really nothing that's original, but it's great to see how everybody's willing to work together to help everybody or to have them help their athletes. And I think that's such a huge aspect, because I agree with you. Like, not to bash the football SNC, but there's not as much collaboration that occurs, and maybe it's gotten better. I don't know, but the basketball community is it's very obvious to see, and it's awesome from that standpoint. It feels like and appears like there's no ego. You can call the best people, and say, hey, I have a question on this. Can you help me? Okay, so I do have a question for you. Advice for young coaches that struggle with periodizing or having the conversation about periodizing practice with their head coaches, because I think a lot of us kind of know that we should do that, or at least that we should have that conversation. How did you approach it? Because you're right, in soccer, it's a very common thing, right? And there's a bunch of books written about it, and everything from tactical periodization and all that stuff. How have you seen it be successful for you with your coaches? Because I think a lot of people struggle with having those initial conversations, whether it's about practice, because it's not you telling the coach how to run their practice. It's not that at all. And let's make that very clear. Because I think a lot of people may have that thought process of like, well, that's coach's practice. I'm not going to tell them how to do practice. It's like, it's not that. We're not doing that. What has been successful for you over when you first started, and then where are you guys' conversations at now?
Yeah, it's a good question. We didn't originally have Connexon or heart rate data or force plates, anything before I arrived. And even the first, must be 2 years, we haven't for the last 3 years. I think it just comes from a matter of like, we do everything we can to prepare them to win and play games. But like, I don't want to just do nothing in season either. Like, I kind of felt like, we talked about that time in the day, like, oh, I'm going to see my starters now for twice a week for the next 6 months. That's what I tell them. Just be really motivated with me for twice a week. And I can stretch you, I can scrape before practice. We can do optional lifts extra. But, so I think you've got to be bold and you've got to be brave with some day reporting. There's been moments where I've been like, man, this is not how we always do it, man. And you just got to take it on the chin. Like, you got to take it very unemotionally, because you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Yeah. And sometimes you just got to kind of figure out the best delivery of that. I mentioned to you, we would do like post-practice reports, and people didn't check their emails. No problem. I'll find a different way. I'll text you, screenshot straight away, way better. Yeah. Group text, me, the athletic trainer, head coach, we started that going. Great, way better. Originally I would say if you have data I do think the first year should be for data collection. I think it's because then you now have historical data to look back on. And let's say you have it for a year, and at Jackson State you have, let's say, you win 20 games, and 10 of them you guys played, whatever, 25. 10 of them you play amazing, right? And the head battered the team, really close game, but you battered them. Head coach is really excited. They're the games you look at and go, how do we prepare for them? And then if you see trends in that, that's unbelievable data the head coach needs to see. Yeah. And now it's up to you to present it. If it's PowerPoint presentation, if it's keynote, just present it. Put it on his desk, put it on the assistant's desk. Look at the key stakeholders in the organization. Who is someone that is dialed into this? Who's someone that is a future head coach, a former head coach that's on the staff that is really dialed into it, and has coaches ear. So if you're not in the staff meetings, which thankfully I'm not, because I'm good for a Monday morning one, and then please just let me go read and like be a geek and like nerd. I struggle in the meeting, especially if we talk about other things that aren't pertinent to my job.
Sure.
So if you can get the stakeholders invested in it, then there is a conversation. You've got someone in the room for you when the head coach is talking about practice, and you say, "Hey, did you see what Matt put on your desk?" I didn't. I think you might like it. Like, dude, this is actually pretty interesting. Look at the correlation here. Look at the correlation between force plate jumps on that day as well. We can add layers to it. Look at the correlation between how we started the game. They had to call a timeout after 2 minutes. Look at the correlation in field goal percentages. Look at the correlation in like whatever, I think it really starts with just having you got to think about the big picture, how good this thing can be. And you've got to be bold. You've got to be brave, and you've got to put work in, you've got to be able to give them something that really a 5-year-old could read. And you've got to be dummy proof, because they're not going to give a damn about cumulative acceleration load per minute. You'd be intensity per minute. All right, that makes sense. Some coaches are really old school and they're distance, and then they speed. Okay, cool, whatever. We have our own. Every coach is going to have their nuance. And I think asking coach, if I have this system, what would you value? What can I text him, sit down, write, literally pen and paper. Hey, what do you value with this? So he can see you physically write it down. Okay, cool. I'll have something for you next week. Great. Then it's off his plate. There's no stress. And then he knows you're doing it. If you, sometimes we're in the weight room, it's outside, out of mind. It's I try and do a great job of sending him stuff throughout the week of, hey, this is what the guys are working on. This is what, hey, is this what you're talking about with the data? Because, I'm a member of his staff. I am a coach. It's I want to provide value. I want him to see that value. And also, I want him to know, hey, this is a big piece of what we do. And so in trying to advocate for assistance that I have and try and advocate for more resources, it's I'm gonna help Matt out, because he's all about what we're doing, and so my advice would be, know what the head coach wants, be bold, but you got to put time in it. You've got to put time into those reports, and be okay with being turned down and said, no, that don't work, I don't want that, but you got to stick with it till the point where the head coach really, really doesn't give a damn, and you're like, okay, I tried, and unfortunately, like I say, I have a head coach that is really dialed into it and does enjoy it,
Mm-hmm. Well, that and oh my God, I just had something in my head that I was just about to say. Oh, the coaches see you, if you're using data every day, they're seeing you put the units on the guys or hand them out, and they're seeing you collect them, and then they're seeing you go over to your computer and chalk up the phases and all this other stuff. And so they're seeing you do it, if you're using that on a daily basis, which I recommend you should. So then you should probably show them something. Otherwise, they're like, hey, we're doing this, but what is this doing for us? And so it's if they're seeing you do it every day and the guys are wearing the straps and everything, then, you should probably say, hey, man, this is what we're getting, right? And break it down and make it look easy to read, too. I think that's a huge aspect of it. Make it look easy to read, make your points, and hey, there you go. Let's go on it. Make it very easy, simple. Volume, intensity, density, speed. Okay, cool. 4 things. It's not overwhelming. It's not, you know what I'm saying? From that standpoint, and just go from there. Start small and build off of it, right? I think that's the biggest thing, is everybody wants to have this super elaborate thing right away. Hey, start small, build off of it, and then add layers, like you're saying, from that standpoint. And make it easier on yourself than feeling like you have this entire mountain you have to climb before you can actually share this information.
Yeah, and I would say, if the head coach sees you doing it, which he will, the head coach sees the guys put the Kinect on pouch in, wear the heart rate, they're paying for it as well. So it's we're not paying for it. That's not coming out of my pocket. It's coming out of my budget. And it's if the program is paying for it, probably wants to be an ROI, And I remember coach had said to me early on when we were using Kinect on, it was quantifying how hard the guys are working. And that's the $1 million question. How can you quantify how hard a player's working? And he'd text me is, do we really need this system? Is there a better system out there? And I was like, you write a big text and you delete it all. And then you go, and this is me just having matured as a coach. It's like, coach, that's on me. Like, if you haven't seen the value of this data, that's on me. Like, I'll do a better job with that.
Yeah.
And then the response to that is a positive response. And then from there on, you're like, cool. Like, I have to show the value of the system because I know how valuable it is. There's no point a strength coach knowing how valuable it is because we're the geeks, we're the nerds, we love all that stuff. We should do it. Right? That's what we talked about earlier. Like, that is where I believe this profession is going. Having a hybrid role and awareness. I don't need R and Python, but I need to be able to know what Connexon is. I need to know Excel. I need to be able to help periodize practices. I need to help with how we can get the reserves in better shape in season. Like, that helps me with that. It's data. It's quantifiable. As strength coaches, we're the most we have, body composition. It's quantifiable. All right. Practice flow, it's quantifiable. Force plate jumps, 1 rep maxes. Assistant coaches, shot percentages. If I question that, that's more of an art form, which is fine. Right. But hey, coach, why don't we do the same shooting drill every Friday? Well, we might. But we are always asked to quantify stuff. Right? It's just our nature. So are we going to resist it or embrace it? I've chosen to embrace it. Right. And then you've got to try and excel in that. And so, I think it's just, I can't imagine not having it. But there's been some growing pains with it. And how do you like this report? Okay, this one. And then you've got to do your research, man. You've got to speak to people that are doing it at a high level. And you've got to take some of those ideas and you've got to, incorporate it into the area, the program you're at currently. Yeah,
absolutely. Asking for help too, that's a big thing because you might have an idea of what you want something to look like. And you're like, okay, cool. This is what I see a lot too. And this is me telling on myself or talking to myself too, but it's like, well, I think this looks great and I understand it all. And it's like, well, you should because you created it, right? Yeah. Whereas it's like, how is somebody else going to receive that, right? Or is it too much? Is there too much noise? Is it too loud? Is there too much color? Are the colors too bright? Like all that small stuff, like as people think that it's not important, it is actually rather quite important, especially when you're talking about like attention span, especially when you're talking about focus. If you want to draw your focus to a particular area, of either a recommendation of a red flag or green flag or things that systems inside your system that you created, color is an important thing. And the abuse of color is also an important thing. And where does their attention go? And everything from that standpoint, there's and that's an entire skill set in itself, from the aspect to present it and get your point across appropriately, or at least in the way in which you want it to. And that takes time. Like that's a thing that a lot of people, it takes a lot of time and it's going to take multiple versions. It's going to take you, consistently doing it, to say, okay, hey, I kind of like this format. It works for them. It makes sense to them. Cool. Let's keep this and let's roll with it. Right. One of the things that you said that's really interesting and from your research article in regards to like body composition in season. I think that's such an important thing because I think a lot of times people think, well, we're not going to get better in season, right? We're just going to play the game. And it's like, that's not true at all either, right? From you guys, at least you stated that you had guys gain weight in season and it's not body fat, it was lean muscle tissue. And how important of a role is that for player health, late in season, especially post non-conference, when you get into conference play and you're starting to make that run in March, the metabolic health of an athlete and the reduction of potential injury is so critical. How did you guys was that something that was expected or did you kind of expect a different result from a body composition standpoint during the season?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in my early seasons, we had guys lose a lot of weight in season. That was a point of like improvement from head coach to me watching the games. Like, man, we could have done better there. And I think over the years, and even with that research article, that was part of the discussion area was, my health science professor, Scott Murr, that did the paper, with me, it was, okay, like, is this good? Is this bad? And I'm like, no, this is good. Like, I would rather see my guys way heavier at the end than the start because the last thing I want to see is them weigh less. Because to me, that is, and I don't think let me preface this, it's not like they're 10 pounds heavier. Sure. It's like it's 2-3 pounds, something like that, maybe 5. So that gives me peace of mind as well. There's probably, a little bit of lean mass, maybe a little bit of fat mass, but like really, if you're playing 3 games in 3 days in March, like, hey, I'm fine if you have some fat supplies to help with energy. Like, you know what I mean? I'd rather you be a little bit higher. Let's say you go on the game on a Saturday and you're a little bit higher, like 188, and your normal playing weight's 185, well, I don't know what your weight's going to be on Sunday, but I'd rather start you higher than be 182 and then finish Monday night and you got to be your best. You're 10 pounds different,
Right.
And so I think that's definitely something we were consciously aware of. I do try, again, each year I'm in this thing, I try and kind of improve my process, try and improve my training with those guys. I do like to see my low minute guys a lot in season. If that's, a 20-minute arm farm, I'm fine with that. 20 minutes arm abs, like that's still accessory. You still need your arms to play basketball. And at least it's telling your body, it's a stimulus of, oh, I'm not just running. I'm not just a cross-country runner. Like that's essentially what you do in preseason. You run, you see him twice a week. Okay, please come in the optional, please. Do whatever you want. Give you autonomy. I had it today. I had my assistant take it. I'm out on a call. I'm doing this. Like, hey, I trust them. Go in there, do whatever you want. I'm so structured 2 days a week right now with stuff. And it's like French contrast method. It's very structured. Hey, go get some arms. Like you need your arms to grow. You need your core to be strong. Just try and do some more extension. We don't really need much flexion stuff. We're doing a lot of rebounding right now. When you get an extension, hey, try some different abs. Use fat grips if you're doing barbells. Like we set some, hey, everyone, guys, use rope with the press down. You've used the V bar the last couple of times. That's it. If you want to do it high low, just use the rope, use fat bars, fat grips. Cool. Hey, you need 10 minutes cardio. Don't care what machine it is.
Yeah.
So I think, once the players understand that, we do push the fluids. We do push the food with them. I can't deny that. We have some definite stuff that we push nutritionally with them. We eat very well on the road. We eat very well after the game. We try and give guys that say my skinnies, we try and give them more food after the game, and they're very appreciative of that. And the force plates, right? We get the most accurate scale you can get. Hawkins Dynamic force plates. Like I will shout the roof down about that company and about Drake and how well they do. And it's like that's the most accurate scale we got. So every time they step on, I can see it point where they're at. And also the players, like I want to give them confidence. If you want to play at 220 and you're slipping down to 217, okay, like I'm going to feed. Hey, you want some cleaning? You want this? Like I'm doing this for you. Like I say to the guys, everything I do is for you. Yeah, it's like I'm not buying these things. I'm not buying all these vitamins for me. Like I'm doing it for you. Like please, like tell me if there's something else you want that you think can help you put on weight. I will get it for you. And once I think they know that, and they're going to have more care with the nutrition station downstairs. They're going to take 3 shakes after practice that we tell them to. They're going to take the vitamins we tell them to. They're going to have the double entrees. It's like, all these little things add up. And also I think something we neglect is the stress of the games. If you're a starter, like the games are really stressful. Yes. Win or lose, the next day. I've had mentors that can kind of still be somewhat different the day after a game with their mood. I'm just trying to be consistent. Like I know you didn't try and lose the game. I know like you want to win. I've got to be upbeat. I've got to be, hey, let's go. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's get back to the habits. Like that's what our job is. I think we've got to live in the middle. Not be too high, not be too low. Sometimes in games, I'm like, I should probably smile a little bit more. I'm involved with some of the games, like we're up 10, and then like it's really tight at the end, and like say we lose it, you're just like, why was I so excited? Like I should have just been calm. But that's like we're on the sidelines. We're never going to be on the court. Like thankfully, we're in the shadows. Like I feel just the same way. So to your point about going back to the body composition stuff, like it's such a huge emphasis for us because we know if we're trying to play fast, we want these guys to be sub 10% body fat. I'm not saying we're perfect, but like that's our goal. We have historical data on body composition tests. I tell our guys, I'm trying to get you to a career best. This is what I believe is that. But I also ask for their input. Hey, if you tell me if you think you're getting too big and too strong, we will switch up your plan. Right? We will, like what we said earlier, we'll make it more fascia based. Like I'm good with that. I am fine with that. Right? There's 2 ends of the spectrum for me with that. If you feel like you're getting too big, we'll do more speed work. You tell me. And they're like, nah, coach, I like what I'm on. Great. If they tell me, I'll change it straight away. No ego. I'm not the one playing. They're the ones playing. I want them to feel confident, especially if it's a starter. Like, coach, I'm feeling like I'm getting a bit too big. Well, guess what, dude? You don't have to do chin-ups anymore, pull downs. We can do a jumping chin-up. It's fine by me. No issue with that. And if you do these optional sessions, you feel like you're getting too big, maybe do some more rotational work. Maybe do some more like band work for your hips and your glutes and like prehab. Like, okay, cool. Hey, maybe we reduce the carbs at a certain meal. Okay, cool. Like whatever they need.
Like water.
Yeah, whatever they need, and because it's like with the strength and conditioning part, again, it's like people can be called athletic performance. It's the same thing, man. I'm just trying to have as best transfer of training. I don't want my guys to be as big, as strong, but as functionally good and sound as they can to play basketball. It's not Gold's Gym. Like, you're not sitting down. You're going to have a pace in there. Like, I'm going to respect your time. I'm not trying to have you for an hour and 10 just because I can. Like, I'm going to respect your time, respect mine. train hard in there. I'll give you every nutritional means we can, NCAA approved, and your body will change. And when it starts to change, you start looking in the mirror and noticing it, you have even more buy, and you come to the optional session. Then I give you even more freedom then to do it. And then it's like, dude, they love being in there. I'm good with that. What? I want it to be a place of development, not a place of like, oh, this. I want you to enjoy that space,
Yeah. Well, and you love it that they come in too, right? Like that's kind of like, everybody's like, oh, the culture, and like it gets thrown around as a bad thing, but I think it's a great thing. Like when you develop culture for your athletes that come in on their own time, with without being forced, like, hey, I want to be in there. I know that this is putting the daily deposits into my success. Like that's a great thing. That's a testament to you. That's a compliment to you and what you're doing there. And I know a lot of people like a buzzword of culture, but it's like it's such an important thing. Like it's such an important thing that we have the ability to develop and essentially kind of set from that standpoint. And so it's like we should take pride in having 95, 97% of our guys come in on a optional day or an off day just to get in a little bit of work. And it's not anything crazy. They're not doing, crazy training.
Not doing legs,
Yeah, right. But if they're doing prehab stuff, right, it's like, okay, fantastic. If they're doing, monster walks, and if they're doing all this other stuff, okay, great, that's awesome. Like, let's get something in. If they're doing more cool arms, great. Like everybody loves a good arm farm session. And so, that's a testament to you. But I think a lot of people need to take more pride in that, from that standpoint and talk about it more. Hey, on an optional day, 85% of the guys came in. Are your players texting you outside of lifting and outside of practice and asking questions? Are they curious? Are they inquisitive of what they can do as well? And are you having high level conversations with them? Is such an important thing. I was just kind of having this conversation with a couple of our coaches. It's like, hey, like, we gotta have these conversations, which is great. And it's just identifying those things and then, putting them in motion.
Yeah. And, an off day, like we know what college athletes are like. They're going to be in the gym shooting. So if they're in the facility, like, let's just pair it around that time. Like I'm fine for it to be, I'm lucky I've got Justin in there, like my assistant, but it can be, hey, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 2:30. Hey, I don't have to be there the whole time. Justin can be there. I can get them started. Hey, you good? What are you going to hit? Great. There's a strength coach in there that's CSCS certified. My guys know how to tidy up after themselves. Great. Hit it. 20 minutes. Cool. Like and again, I think that gives them a sense of like freedom and like, man, okay, this is kind of cool. And then I promise you, they'll do more than you think. Like we used to, we do Saturday lifts in the summer. And I've kind of done a couple of articles about this because I'm really passionate about giving them autonomy. Like no one likes being told what to do all the time. No one. Okay. Like I don't, you don't, my wife doesn't. Like, no, like, you know what I mean? Like, so do you think our athletes do? Because in film they are, in coaching they are, in classroom they are, by their parents they are. So like, hey, if they can have a bit of moment in the day where they have some freedom and choice to do something, that's important to me. Yeah. And I promise you, the more people you get in there, the more it's like, hey, I'm going to hit this. Do you want to hit it with me? Yeah, let's do it. Well, then it gets competitive. Yeah. And we've had guys on Saturday sessions in the summer, like, let's do prowler stuff. And they get prowler reps in there. Great. They normally all start with jump rope, which I think is amazing. That tells you something about these athletes, right?
Amazing.
More elastic, fascial-based athletes always start with jump rope, warm them up. Okay, that's probably telling me something. Maybe I should add that into a game day warm-up. Maybe I should take one on the road with me. Maybe I should do that for warm-ups pre-practice. Why not jump rope for a bit or do pogos? They want that.
Right.
And then they'll do, like I say, some prowler stuff. We had guys do a one-arm bench one session. Three of my guards. I'm like, okay, here's a Saturday session.
I said you got autonomy.
Like, as long as you know how to spot, like you dial in when they're doing those reps. But like if they hit a new 1RM on an optional session on a Saturday, like to your point, I don't use the word culture much, but like that is culture. That is them valuing that space, and then guess what? I've had them for 6 days a week in the summer. Like do optionals if they choose to do it for. Like, hey man, like if you stack that up over time, we're in a good spot. And I'm trying to, especially as I've said to you, my starters will do twice a week, basically from now on. Well, if they come in for the optional session, which they did today, that's 3 sessions they've done this week, great. They'll have done 3 in a row, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then if at some point, if we have an optional session on Saturday, cool. Like I'm adding some volume in there, like it's just like the same thing we talk about at warm-ups, right? On Mondays, I'm going to try and do some more band work stuff. Like because I don't lift on Mondays, so we need to do some strength-based stuff in the warm-up, in my opinion.
Okay.
The microdose over time.
Yep.
So we'll do resistance time work, lateral shuffles, driving to the rim. I'll progress that each Monday now. Like, that's a cool addition for me this year. What am I doing on Friday? Well, I'll think about what Friday. It might be a mini bands. It might be getting the sleds out and doing some sprint. Like, I just think there's, going back to your point about, or going back to what I'm saying, I guess, about autonomy and giving these guys, like, it's the more buy-in they can have with everything you do, the better. And I think the more authentic we are in, and also one thing here with social media, we're talking about this. I know I'm all over, but I think it's a great thing. I always say to the guys in the optional, hey, if you see something you like on social media, send it to me. Even if you think it's dumb, if you think it's smart, send it to me. I'd rather see what you believe is good advice and help you with that than not hear it and you go, well, coach, I've been having tuna for breakfast because this person has 5 cans of tuna. No.
Yeah.
And if you see an exercise you like, I'd rather you do it in an autonomy session, in an extra session, and I see it and I can correct you on technique, than do it by yourself in your bedroom doing a different type of push-up, whatever it is. Like, I'd rather see it. So then it opens up conversation and that, hey, coach, do you know this person? I do. I think he's great. Yeah, I do. Actually, I like this kind of stuff. Hey, you should really follow this person. This person has some great advice. Okay, thanks, coach. And it goes deeper. All right. And so I think those sessions offer so much value. And I think sometimes we need to just be like, hey, man, like, I'm not trying to be a hard ass, bro. Like come in, train for a bit. Like, it's day. Like, if you roll out for 20 minutes and do some band work, I'm okay with that. Like, I've got no issue with that. If you're a skinny guy that needs to put on weight, I will encourage you to do some form of resistance training when you're in there. And that's the nuance of what we do, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's having the open mind of them sharing that with you, right? And instead of you being egotistical or like, no, that'll never be in, or whatever, it's just like, okay, cool. It's like taking that in and maybe you don't add it in the next day, but maybe your next block you do, your next cycle, whatever the case, hey, you know what? That's what they want. There's no harm in giving them a little bit of what they want because it makes things a lot easier, a lot better, right? Like, we really implemented a lot of yoga and meditation because the guys really want it. And, they'll text me, hey, coach, can we do, we have like a little 10-minute yoga where we, shut all the lights off and they lay there and stuff. And I'm like, if you guys like that, absolutely. I have no issue with that at all. It's great. It really gets you into that parasympathetic state. And they're like, yeah, we feel 1,000 times better after that. I'm like, cool. Like, it's a Thursday thing for us now. And so,
that's awesome.
It's like, awesome, sweet. Let's do that. Right. I don't particularly care what it is. And it's the adage of like, if the athletes think it's beneficial, regardless of like, to an extent, regardless of what we think if it's beneficial or not, like if they think it helps them, then you know what, or it gives them the confidence, then hey, we're here to support that as long as it's safe and they don't injure themselves and everything from that standpoint. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in like, this is my program, this is what we're going to do. And it's like, well, yes, but at the same time, there's the give and take, right? And hey, if you think the foam rolling, is what helps you feel confident and you feel great, cool. Like, I have no issue with that. Like, that's awesome. If you think it's doing core, great. Like, whatever the case may be, awesome. Let's do that. Why not? Right? If it's meditation, fantastic. Like, I have no issue with that at all. So
ego can't get in the way of best practice. Like, it just can't. It can't. And honestly, sometimes these sessions, it's like they're going to fill buckets that I'm probably not filling with the French contrast.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, like, and if your athlete's like, hey, coach, I really want to do bicep curls, tricep press downs. If you say, yeah, go ahead, they're probably going to do 5 sets instead of 3. If you tell them to do something, they might do 3. They'll hit 5, so you get more volume. Yeah. And, the fact it's brilliant, right? It's like, it's so simple. It's so simple. And it's like, yeah, guys, I don't want you sitting down. I don't want you bringing your phones in there. We have weight room rules. I get that. Yeah. And I'm good with that. That upholds the culture of our department, which is important. But if they come in there and they see it as a place of development to help them with their physique and with their body comp, like, I don't think it's an art. I don't think it's even a discussion. Like, you're doing whatever you want, bro. And sometimes like, coach, you know what? I don't really know. Can you help me something? Yeah. Well, you're someone that's still trying to lean out. So let's do this first. Let's do that. That's what I'm here for. Right. I'll always say that. Hey, autonomy guys, but obviously if you want to talk to me about something or like, I'll help you with it. And some guys, I made the joke about legs. Some guys are like, hey, I want to hit some legs today. I had some freshmen say that like last week, 2 of them. I was like, hell yeah. All right. Let's
all right, man.
What are we doing tomorrow? How can I make them not so sore? Let's do some isos. Let's do some short ones.
Yep.
Short himmers, right? long himmers, as Daniel Bove talks about. Like, let's do that. Let's try that. Hey, how
Yep.
you like that? Cool. And then I know I'm getting some tendon strength in there. Great.
Yep.
So that's ticking a box. That's filling a bucket we're not filling currently. And
Yeah.
that's my job, right? That's what I'm paid for. I'm paid to know as much as I can about
Yeah.
all my athletes.
Yeah.
And to your point about the optional sessions and like them having an opinion, it's like that's really important later on in the season. Really important. I know one of my players who's, let's say one of our best players to ever come out of Furman. He's now with the Kings. He used to always like doing those partial back squats because he'd load that thing up. And so guess what? The week of the tournament, he knows it's coming. Hey, Coach Matt, you know what's coming next week? I got you, buddy. No worries.
Yeah.
And the whole team does it because it's such a great exercise. I love it. Partial range of motion, max load,
high load,
like all that stuff. And like he loves it. Loves doing that when it's back. Awesome. Well, guess what we do the next week before the selection Sunday? Hey, dude, you want to run it back? Yeah, I want to do. Can we do this as well? Oh, I don't want to do that. Cool, dude. Let's mix it up. Because then I'm playing with house money essentially. Like
100%.
I got this idea initially from Travis Knight at Gonzaga, is like giving them that option, and having a conversation. It's like, okay, what if you have a transfer? What did you do at your previous school that you didn't like?
Yeah.
That exercise, call it done. We're not doing that. Okay, what do you enjoy in here? This, cool, like simple. Asking their
crazy
with them, and not just be like, well, I do this, and this is what you're going to do in my system. I think generally basketball strength coaches, again, I can't speak for other sports. I can speak for the sport I'm working in. Generally, we are open-minded. We're curious. We want best practice. We have a great relationship with all our athletes because it's a small team. And I know that's why I'm in this sport. That's why I'm doing okay in it, because it's like I have that relationship piece with them. And they know they're going to get best service from me. And they also know they can always ask me something and say, hey, why are we doing this? Or can I do it like this? It's easy, like cable paddle press. Hey, can I do it like this? If they have a nuance in the technique, and I'm asking them why they're doing it, and they give me a good answer, no problem.
Cool.
No issue.
Yeah.
Like, just, don't arch your back like a camel. Like, if you if you want to have your foot come around and you want to load it up heavier, someone wants to go light a bit quicker. I mean, I honestly had that with my golf team the other day. This guy's just going at this thing on a rope, and I'm like, and so, hey, coach, do you want us to do it like how you demoed it, or like him? And I was like, definitely like him. I mean, he's just made you guys better. The intent he's having with this exercise. And I was like, explain why you're doing it like this. And he's a very, inquisitive athlete. This is why I feel like the swing coach I've worked with said this before. I said, hell yeah, way better. And so I said to my assistant, Justin, I was like, hey man, don't ever be afraid to let the athlete tell you what they think is best practice. Because he just made the session better immediately by having good intent. And I was like, I don't need a slow, like I was demoing it like, dude, do it like he did it. You know?
Yeah. Well, and like that combination there, I think of that example alone is not just only like the athlete made the session better, but it's also like how he explained it of, hey, my swing coach X, Y, and Z, whatever the case may be, right? If we can start to implement, and I think a lot of coaches may be there, but if we can complement and reinforce skill movement patterns inside the weight room at the same time, we're getting a lot of bang for our buck there, 100%. And whether it's, golf in particular, whatever the sport may be, if we can tie in the skill acquisition component with the weight room session, like one thing that we like to do is, the little hoops that you can put on the back of a door, and you have a basketball, like we do jumps and then they do dunks with that, right? And even though, it's not a real basketball, it's way smaller, whatever, but it's like, hey, do something different every time. So whether it's between the legs, whether it's behind the back, whether it's a windmill, whatever the case may be, is that going to 100% translate to the court? Maybe not, right? Probably not. I think we all know that. But they're having fun with it, right? And they can work some sort of skill aspect to that because dunks are cool and everybody loves to do them and they're eye-catching, et cetera, right? And so it's just, or like when we throw med balls, we'll take a step with it as if you're throwing a chest pass, right? And it's like, okay, even though they may not know that's the intent behind it, that's my intent behind it. And it's like, how do you integrate or at least complement the skill? Not that I'm trying to replace a sport coach or anything from that standpoint, trying to help that inside the weight room and the athletes, because they pick it up that much faster too, right? Be like, hey, throw it like a chest pass. Okay, cool. Like they know. You know what I'm saying? And they have fun with it, and it gets really competitive.
And you've automatically increased the intent of the exercise.
1,000%.
And it's like, so what basketball guys don't necessarily like to do is jump in the weight room because they jump
Right.
so much on the court
Mm-hmm.
and they have so much max intent. Like, how am I going to say, hey, do a max jump in here over a hurdle when they're like, they do it okay. And then on the court, they're freaking, oh, you know, like
Crazy.
practice because their Achilles is like, they can do it right at the end. No matter how tired they are, their Achilles is warm. They're ready to rock. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, bud, you probably could have run that 10 a bit quicker. But
Yeah, right.
you know, I say this, I see some really cool stuff. One of our old strength staff members here, Trent Caldwell's at Lenore Ryan. He does the same thing with football guys. Like even mid-lift, even if it's just for some energy, they'll have a hoop. Hey, and it's like, dude, I love it. It's genuine energy. Guys love it. Everyone thinks they're a hooper. So hoopers definitely are hoopers if they're at Division 1 level, right?
100%. Yeah,
the boys have great intent. And I think I smiled when you said about the skill acquisition piece in the weight room because it's something I've really tried to improve. Again, never played the sport.
Yeah.
Watching practice, speaking to assistant coaches, sending them stuff. Hey, what do you think of this? Like talking to our player development coach. Hey, you know, if we're doing this, how can I make that better? And he's like, hey, add a step in here. This is a movement. Okay, I love it. And then if I can explain that to an athlete, hey, we're doing this movement today. It's something new. I spoke to coach about it. Coach so-and-so, this is what he said you need to work on. Man, your intent goes through the roof. And then you know, it's like, how can we actually see transfer of training? It's like, it's very, very hard. It's like the $1 million question. It's very, very hard. But if an athlete feels like they are improving movement patterns and if you're, hey, you know, in the weight room, hey, you feeling out there? Like you say, that same old thing. You feeling too heavy? You feeling, coach, I'm feeling great. Like, my knees feel good. Like I'm feeling like I can move way better than last year.
Yeah.
Money. It's all I need. I don't, hey, coach, he said, I don't need that. I just need that subjective from the athlete. And then I'm like, that tells me my compass is set at the right level for him. That's what he needs. And the athlete loves it as well. If you keep trying to add skill acquisition pieces in, like I've tried to really be excellent with my bigs this summer because so often it's like, I want my guards to be quick. I want them to be lean. I want them to be explosive. And I'm like, oh, hold on. We've just lost our best big man we've ever had. It's like we need the other bigs to step up. We've got some young bigs. Like, how can they be elite? So other teams in our conference in the area, like, damn, this guy's strong. And so it's like, okay, who's this assistant coach? Hey, what do we need to work on? Wide base. Easy. I can do that infinite number of ways.
Yeah.
Like wide base needs to get stronger. Okay, well, Palloff press. Hey, bud, get your legs as wide as you can. Sit as low as you can. And have one arm on it, another arm out.
Yeah.
Even if the weight's light. Cool. See what we're doing there? Hey, have it where your elbows bend. Have it where you got split stance. Like, and then I tell them, I'm like, be a player. Like, this is you. I want you to be you're on the court right now, and someone is trying to back you down. This is an isometric hold. Be a player. Oh, and by the way, I just want it for 8 seconds each side, whatever weight you need. But like that thing needs to be heavy now.
Yeah.
And so like that part has been so fun for me because then it's like, oh, cool. Like I want to do stuff different in there as well. Like I get excited, like programming. Like I love programming. Yeah. Now, how can we move this next? Oh, I want to try this out because I saw that online, or I spoke to so and so coach, or I've been seeing this at practice, or hey, we're at this time of year. Like I love programming. I love it. And then when you're in the session, you're like, you get excited, and the player can see that. What are you smiling about? I'm smiling because
yeah, exactly, right, yeah.
You know, and then he's like, I was like, how you feel? I love that. Hell yeah, you do. Yeah. And then it just keeps, and I work in basketball, bro. Like I should probably tailor it to basketball athletes as best I can in all aspects, in everything I do. Yep. You know, there doesn't need to be anything general in my mind, especially at this time of year. It needs to be specific prep. Yeah. And so if my athletes know that, and I'm going to be intense with what I'm giving them, you know, we're going to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One last point. I also really love contact prep with basketball athletes. And so, because it's literally just boxing out, right? And I found that to be really successful for warm-ups pre-practice where, you know, it's 15 seconds on each side, front, back, side, because it gets really competitive. And then if you're thinking specifically, like they're going to go box out a lot in practice, like 15 seconds, it's isometric. We're moving somebody else's mass. We're getting a lot of great things from it. And it obviously like fires up the nervous system too. And I've just had really good success with it. It's been great. I don't use it every single day, but, you know, maybe once a week or whatever the case may be. And it's been fantastic. And it's really quick, really simple, checks a lot of boxes for me. And it's like, okay, cool. We tend to have good practices. Is it for that reason? Maybe, maybe not. Probably no. But like, it helps, you know. And from that standpoint, and so it's just really cool. It's really interesting to see how you can get the give and take from your teams, your athletes, and what they like. what they enjoy, what's beneficial. And honestly, as long as it's like not harmful, it's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, we can do that. Right. And now be smart, especially now during in season, right. With getting away from certain aspects of things. But yeah, I think it's fun, and I
For
mean
sure.
that in every aspect. Like, it's fun to figure out the puzzle. It's fun.
Yeah, as a professional, like the last thing I want to be is be complacent or stagnant.
Yeah.
It's like I want to keep challenging myself and like my delivery. And again, the challenge is in front of you if you are at a school like say a mid-major where you have athletes year after year. Well, dude, you got to do something different with them because they're going
Yeah.
to have those same tests and they're going to need to keep improving their numbers. So you can't
Right.
keep doing what you've done. And you made a great point. And to be honest, like I'm going to steal that for Friday. It's a great, like the overcoming. I remember doing it with the players at Slauson. I did it in the warm-ups because he got very low. He had a great center of gravity. And that's why he, even though he wasn't the strongest guy, very fascial based, he was able to really help like move people on offense, so move defenders. And so I'd do that where I'd lean into him game day,
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
lean into him, and then I'd have him be in the box out position, and I'd try and perturbate dynamic stabilization.
Yeah.
And it's funny because obviously someone that I really respect and that everyone in the basketball community knows, Corey,
Yeah.
at Texas, he posted a pic of him doing it with KD.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
baby. So I DM that to my athletes straight away. I said, this is funny. You seen this?
Funny. I do similar stuff.
And so you just like, but then, and so it's like, yeah, so we're going to do the warm up. And I
Yep.
actually did it with one of my athletes Tuesday, pre-practice.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's hit some ISO. It's like, but
Yeah.
like what we see is like, and who you follow, I think can be a
Yes.
source of information, a library of information, not just scroll, waste time. It's like, I use that for learning. And like, I'll give
Yes.
shout out to Corey and shout out to Zach. Really that Texas weight room, like,
Oh,
man,
they're killing it. They're
but like,
crushing it out there.
and it raises our industry, like it improves
Yes.
our profession. Like they are
Yes.
industry leaders, obviously, like the
Mhm.
conversation we've had today in the podcast, like they're probably doing that on the daily. So it's like low key
Every single day.
we're not just like,
Yes.
but
Together. Yeah.
all that to say is, I love that idea. I'm going to use that on Friday. The guys will
Yeah.
love it because it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. And for the
Yeah.
big men, especially.
Especially the big men.
And so I think with what you're doing with the podcast, I think with what coaches share online, like it keeps raising the industry higher. That's why I love being a part of this industry. That's why I love getting on calls with people. And for as much as I feel like I've taken from people, like I think that's why the blogs, that's why I want to give. Just like how can I like give? And if it's worth something, if one person from this, it's like, man, I want to use that. Cool. Like we just help each other. That's the industry. That's the profession. Celebrate others more. Argue less on social media. Like we don't need to be such idiots on that. Like let's just be respectful and respect people's opinions. And if I don't want to back squat, I'm not going to back squat. Like you know what I mean? I just let's have a bit more love.
Yeah, and 100%. That's the entire reason why I started this thing was like because you go out straight to Coach Twitter or whatever, and all you see is just bickering back and forth, and it's about like the silliest things of exercise selection. And it's like, okay, like as long as you're getting the adaptation, the achievement of the adaptation, that's all that really matters, right? Like the means in which you get there doesn't really particularly matter. But it was like, hey, you know what? Like I think we have more in common than we do differences, even though we argue about all this other stuff. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, why are we the only ones arguing about this thing that like it doesn't help anybody, right?
And let's just try and provide as much value as we can with the program we're at and the athletes we work with. And that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. And absolutely huge shout out to the Texas weight room because they're crushing it right now. When they posted about the leg press machine that they have, and they were, I think both of them did 3 reps or whatever. I sent it to our associate head because we have a great relationship, and I was like, this is literally next level. I think that's what I told him. I said, this is literally next level. Like it's not even a weight thing. It's just sheer like peak power and 3 reps and that's it. I'm like, that's what obviously we're not going to purchase that, but I'm like, this is where it's going or it's at, I should say. And this is where performance needs to be. The weight on the bar is great. I'm a huge VBT fan. I love VBT for that reason, because it's like, the weight on the bar is important, but the intent of it, I think, is more important. And so let's do that, and over time, weight will come. And so I love VBT for athletes. I think it's great as long as it's utilized appropriately and with the right athletes. I think there's times where they're not ready for it, and they just need to get stronger, from that standpoint. But anyways, Matt, where can people find you online, man?
I have a Twitter and I have an Instagram. I guess, I have those two. I have LinkedIn, which is like way too professional. It's like, wow, this thing's like, I just have it because I feel like it's probably good to have it. Don't really post much on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram and Twitter. I'm sure the handles, I'll text them to you.
Sure.
And yeah, I get a lot of great content from that, and I think it can be used for good if we come at it from that mindset. So, but I want to give you a shout out, bro. I think it's been awesome. Guests you've had on, conversations you've had. I think it's bold and brave to do a podcast as well. Thank you for asking me to be on.
Absolutely.
Glad I could be a support. I realize some of my questions I just don't stop talking. So I apologize in advance if people are like, dude, this guy just won't shut up. I guess that's the nature of a podcast, but I appreciate having me on, bro. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on and having this conversation. And I think it's the start of many more. And I appreciate what you're doing and everything that you are constantly sharing. And just want to let you know that if people haven't recognized you yet, just know that I believe you're doing fantastic stuff and that you're taking things to the next level. And it's great to see. And that I appreciate that as well. And you and your time today as well. And just want to say thank you and keep doing what you're doing, because I think it's the direction that it needs to go. If not, it's already going there. And we just continue to raise the level for not only ourselves, but our athletes, and then for our teams to hopefully get more dubs.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's always nice to be encouraged. So thank you.
Absolutely. Guys, here's the thing. If you got something from this episode, do us a huge favor, share the show. Okay. Pretty simple. Spotify, YouTube, share the show. That's it. So guys, thank you. Thanks for listening. Matt, appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Look forward to more conversations with you.
Yes, sir.